Okay, we're here with Cody Drobot, recent IFBB Pro. For people who don't know who you are, Cody, just give us kind of a quick rundown about you and your entrance here into the sport of bodybuilding, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so again, my name's Cody Drobot, steel athlete and Canada's newest IFBB Pro. I come from a very small town in Alberta, Canada. It's the prairies. It's very blue collar farming community. So that's kind of where I'm from, and I live in Edmonton now, which is the city. That's when I made my transition over to bodybuilding because I come from a sports background. My first passion was baseball. I played baseball my entire life. So I started weight training fairly young, right around 14 years of age.
Yep.
Training as a bodybuilder, probably right around 19, 20 years old.
And how old are you now?
26.
All right, so you've been dabbling in this sport for about 12 years now.
Yeah, I started competing at the age of 21. My first year in bodybuilding, I won Junior Mr. Alberta, I won men's middleweight, and then I won the overall.
And that's when you were 21?
Yes.
Wow.
And then from there, I fell in love with it. I became known on social media for the vacuum and a lot of the classical poses that I used to hit, or that I still hit. But so that's why I stayed in that classic division for so long, is because I felt the pressure of staying in there, because that's kind of how people learned about me or found out about me.
And for people who don't know, what division did you go pro in?
IFBB Pro. That award is going to go to number 17.
So I won my pro card as a light heavyweight.
Light heavyweight, so bodybuilding, all right?
Yes.
So people don't know. Now everyone's going to ask this, and I want to hear about the other stuff. What did you weigh? Everyone's going to know what you weigh.
So, like you said, so people are used to seeing me in the classic division because I've been competing in the classic division ever since it came out in 2016. As a classic competitor in the amateur division, I had to weigh under 182 pounds, and I always just barely snuck under that. So I actually did the Vancouver Pro Qualifier last year, and I weighed in at 181.8, so just barely under that cap.
And when you say you have to kind of suck down to do it, because there's probably a lot of people, males or females, that also struggle with this stuff, to give people a perspective, how much weight do you usually have to lose over the last couple days, or maybe over the last week, to make weight?
Usually right around 9-10 pounds.
Okay.
Just to suck down into that classic division.
What's the hardest part about doing that?
I relish in that, man. I really love the last stretch till showtime. A lot of people, that's where I mean, it's still obviously tough mentally, physically, but something about getting down in the trenches like that, I switch gears in my brain, and I love it. But so struggling or suffering to make that weight isn't an issue for me. The issue is filling out in time adequately for a stage.
Okay.
That was always where I struggled.
I think a lot of people are going to listen to this, I think they're going to be curious to know how you approach it, and maybe, because I used to have to lose about 9 pounds the last 2 or 3 days to do it. So I think it'd be helpful for people that are going to be watching this to kind of hear maybe how 2 different people had 2 different styles. For me, it was pretty simple. It was, I would manipulate my water. About 7 or 8 days out, I would be over drinking a lot of water, and then I would really taper it back the last 36 hours. I'd do like a liter of water that day. And I changed my training style. That was a big one, to deplete a lot of glycogen. That made me lose weight. How about you? What are kind of things were part of your strategy when you were trying to cut weight?
Very similar. So I would do water loading. I'd get up to drinking about 8 liters of water a day. Yep. The last couple days before the show, just to flush that extra water out, that sub-Q water. But once I crossed a certain point of depletion, just the way my body is, my metabolism is, it was very, very hard for me to fill back out. So I would just barely sneak under the weight cap. And not last year, the year before, when I did the Arnold Classic, we actually loaded me, after I made weight, we loaded me on 1,700 grams of carbs the first day.
On what kind of, I always wondered how guys do it, like Dennis Wolf used to do it. What do you eat to actually be able to digest 1,700 carbs?
So I was eating cream of rice.
Yep.
I was eating about 120 grams dry measure of
Yep.
cream of rice. And then I was rotating. One meal I'd put steak in with the cream of rice.
Yep.
And I was putting honey on it as well. Yep. And then the next meal I would go a muffin, so even more carbs with honey on top again. and I was eating that about every 2 hours. I was rotating back and forth between the state. So again, the first day I loaded on 1,700 grams of carbs, and I woke up the following morning still flat.
Wow.
Super flat. So then we started introducing a lot more fats into the diet. So we actually, my coach had sent me for a big like pancake breakfast. I was eating whole eggs, bacon, the whole 9 yards. And then we would go back to the following meal. I'd go back to cream of rice with the muffin and the honey, and then I'd go back to a dirtier meal, so like a burger and fries.
Yep.
And a lot of people aren't going to believe this, but I actually loaded on roughly 22,000 calories for the Arnold Classic.
Wow.
And when I hit the stage, I looked great. I was full. And as you know, as you pose when you're on stage, you usually get harder, fuller, and you get more of a crisp look. It was the opposite. My body was just burning up that glycogen, and as I posed, I actually got flatter and flatter on stage.
Wow, and for people who don't know, this is your first time interacting with Cody, you can look him up online and things. You're known to hit the stuff you can do with, like, you can like make origami with the way you can move your abdominal muscles around with vacuums. For a lot of because a lot of Steel fans, a lot of people watching this stuff aren't professional bodybuilders. They don't want to be professional bodybuilders or fitness competitors. They're not as advanced as you or someone like myself. So they're probably going to ask, hey man, you have crazy abs. I know I got to cut my carbs if I want to lose weight for the beach, but are there any exercises or like, do you train your abs consistently? Give us a 2-minute rundown on I'm sure you've been asked a million times, what's your thoughts on training abs and have nice abs?
When I do ab training, it's always fasted.
Okay.
Fasted cardio is just a regular part of my daily routine, whether I'm off season or pre-contest, it doesn't matter. Off season, it's tapered way back, usually 20 minutes a day, just to help regulate the metabolism. And not only that, it's a great start to my day. I feel great after I do my fasted cardio in the morning.
What's a normal ab
So
workout?
I'll usually pick 3 exercises and do probably about 50 reps per exercise.
Yep.
So I'm only doing about 150 to 200 reps.
So is it all upper and lower based? Any oblique based? Like
I try to stay away from oblique. For me, in my mind, I don't any side movements, any oblique movements. I don't want to make my waist any thicker, and that's not necessarily going to guarantee that your waist is going to get thicker. But when to bring out that oblique detail for me, I do isotension posing.
What's the body part that you've had to work on the most to bring up and walk people through what you found to be successful?
Chest and legs, man. I'm still working every day to improve my chest and leg, and that's just heavy lifting for legs for me, for sure.
What did you try that didn't work?
Training alone. I used to train alone a lot. The biggest change for me is I have a very, very good training partner now, Justin Huey. Having him in the gym with me daily has been immense help in improving my physique, because where I might stop at 13, 14 reps, he'll get 16 to 18 out of me.
Gotcha.
Where I might only, slap on 3 plates, he'll make sure I get 4 on. There was bodybuilders that I had looked up to in the industry. Lee Priest was like my first favorite bodybuilder that I really thought, wow, like that's someone that I would like to look like. Now there's guys in the industry. Flex Lewis is someone that I really look up to. Jason Huzz, someone that I've always really looked up to. These are guys that conduct themselves very well on and off the stage, and I think off the stage is just as important.
You and your fiance both compete, right? And did she recently go pro as well, or what's she doing right now?
She actually only just started competing in the figure division last year.
All right, wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, this girl motivates me and inspires me on a daily basis. She's a trooper. So quick story about Nicole. Last year, she started prep fresh out of a full leg cast on her right side. She tore her MCL and ACL. Came out of a full leg cast, started her prep right away, and that was her first year competing in the figure division. She went on to win Figure Miss Alberta, and then she placed 3rd place at the Vancouver Pro International Pro Qualifier.
Wow. It's hard in relationships. Anytime people that, especially when they both compete, that are like, oh no, it doesn't put a strain on a relationship. It has an impact. It can have good or bad, depending on the relationship and how big of a people jerks are when they diet or how much it consumes them. Yeah. So as you guys have gone through these things together, how do you make it work?
Anyone that says that it's easy is lying.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Sleeping's hard. If people aren't sleeping, you're going to get testy. So
absolutely. Nicole and I, we're coming up on 5 years together. We're engaged now. Engaged to be married. We've learned to coexist under the same roof very, very well. We have a strong mutual respect for each other, and we make it work. There are times where I'm feeling one foot in the grave and she's feeling good. she'll go get groceries, or she'll cook the food or prep the food that night, and vice versa. So it really boils down to a mutual love and respect for each other.
And when would be the next time you compete? I know we talked yesterday, you're taking, not a break, but obviously you're working on the physique piece, you know, so what's next for you?
So I weighed in at the Vancouver Pro Qualifier at the top of light heavies. So the top is 198. I weighed in at 197, but I was able to eat into that show. So the following day after the qualifier, when I turned pro, I actually woke up at 190 pounds, which leaves me with about 22 pounds to grow into the 212 division.
That's a ton.
A lot.
People have no idea how much that
22
is.
pounds of muscle is a lot. It's going to take me years to fill that out. So with that being said, I have a lot of work to do. The earliest that I'll step on stage will be next year. I have a show in mind, but we'll keep that under the wraps for now.
What would be your thoughts to those people at home that are, you know, 15, 16, 18-year-old kids that want to get into this and change their body and do things? What's your ending message to them? Say, guys, take it from me. Like, what would you want to say to them?
Take your time. Take your time. I see this all the time in young guys up and coming, trying to rush the process. You really can't rush this process. Rushing it can be dangerous to your health. Can completely change the look of your physique on how you want it to look.
It shows. It totally shows when people rush it.
Yeah,
the muscle doesn't look the same.
No, and people get burnt out, man. People get burnt out. So take your time and stay true to yourself. Don't try and be someone or something that you're not, because social media is a double-edged sword. It's great because it gives us a platform to reach people across the world, spread positivity, you know, and motivation and inspiration in a positive manner. But it's a savage playground. It's important to put the phone away and get to work, because if your mind is wrapped up in that phone, it's not going to be where it needs to be, and you have to be mentally fixated on that set at that rep. So
I agree. I'll finish with saying this, because that was cause I always thought to myself, man, I wish I had films done and more stuff when I was training, because like, it's 270, 280, shredded 240, and sometimes I say to myself, it would have been cool to have all that. But I don't regret it, because the reality is to me, that was my church. That was that was my quiet time. I would have felt so vulnerable. That's when I was truly me, when I was training. You know that, like in between sets.
100%.
It's emotional. Truthfully, there were times, especially pre-contesting, I would be crying in between sets, but people didn't know that, because you're visualizing. I'm sure you've done that same stuff. It gives me chills thinking about it.
It's a lot. It's a lot of hard work, man.
Because what separates you and the next guy is really, it's not even 1 inch. It's just really like 2.5 reps on 5 sets a week.
Yeah.
You know, it's that, and a couple who can restrict their dieting a little more.
Exactly.
It's this much. Where did your motivation come from? Because for people who don't know, that have never tried to do this, it's not easy, and it's only easy if you have something that really drives you. So what drives you to actually push to this level?
Like I mentioned before, baseball was my first found passion, and then my weight training kind of got implemented into my sports, and then as I started to see my body develop and change in the gym, I thought, wow, like, this is something that I can roll with.